The next thing to deal with is our toms and our tom holders. So once again, I'm going to take you over here to this box here, which contains not just the tom holders, but a hi-hat stand and your snare drum stand. But in here, you will find the tom holders. That's the box to look in. And these are what we're dealing with. Now, with the tom holders, let's deal with one at a time. A couple of things to look at. We have these things on them called memory locks. Now, what I'd suggest is that you take your drum key, just loosen those off, just so they're movable without sort of sliding around too much. Save yourself a bit of time there. This nut here we undo, and you've got to bring the tom holder out. Now, to begin with, just to get a start or set up start, let's just bring that up to sort of 90 degrees there. Now, we're bound to alter that, but it gives us somewhere to start. When we put the tom holder in to the bass drum here, it goes into the left side tom, and what we're looking for is for the screw to be at the front of the kit. If we have the screw, say, this way round, once the kit's set up, they're actually very difficult to get into. So make sure that the screw to adjust the angle is at the front of the kit. Okay, now what we're going to do is just put that in there and just give that a little tighten there. Again, don't over tighten. We're going to have to alter all this once we get a tom on. So this is the memory lock here for this arm. Memory locks are designed so that once we do have our position, we can then lock these into place. They fit and locate into these grooves here. And then when we take the toms out or take the holders out and put them back in, they're always going to go into the same position. So that's our purpose of our memory locks. Anyway, there's one arm in there. So let's take the other arm, same process. Let's just loosen the memory locks off to begin with, just so that we can move those around. Big screw at the top there. Let's just pull that out. So the arm is at sort of 90 degrees. And again, we put that in there so the screw is facing towards the front of the kit. Now at the moment it's all a bit trial and error, because once we get the toms on we're going to have to move these around. So again, just leave the memory locks loose, let them sort of fall into place there, but don't tighten those up. So let's take our first tom. Now the first tom is our smallest tom, and that was in the packaging with the bass drum and the floor tom. This tom is already built, put together, so both heads are on and it's kind of ready to go. It's not tuned yet, but we'll deal with tuning in a second once we've got the kit set up. So let's take the tom. Now you can see this bracket here with a screw on. That fits and locates into this bar here. And then again, just give that a slight turn there, just to hold it in place, but don't over tighten. Okay, let's get the other tom. Now the other tom was actually with the box with the hardware. Again, this tom is actually already put together, so no work to do there. We have got to do some tuning, but like I said with the other ones, we'll do that at a later time. So again, this bracket here, straight in, and it's a gentle tightening up. Now, for people that already play, you can see that those toms are in no position to be played. So what we need to do now is get these angled in and in a position where you've got a good starting point. So what we're going to do is, on the bottom nut here, make sure you're supporting the drum by holding the bracket. Bring that round and point that in slightly. Okay, so got that in position there. Now we're going to look at this, the nut on the front here, which gives us our angle. So if we undo that, again, make sure you're supporting the tom, because if you undo that and not support the tom, it's going to come down and hit the bass drum. Now we're going to drop that down a little bit. So the tom is now a little more square to me here. Now again, we're going to just bring on the tom holder here, on the actual adjuster on the tom, loosen that, and we're just going to square the tom up. Now, like I say, this is all a bit trial and error for the first time, so get that roughly in place. Don't set any memory locks yet. Okay, so this tom now, we need to bring this tom down and round and sort of closer to this one. It's the same procedure. Let's work from this point here first on the bass drum. Undo that slightly, bring that round, angle it in. Next thing to do is the nut on the front here. We loosen that so that we can then drop the tom to the same height, okay? So now the toms are looking in a much better position to play. Personally, I would want to bring that tom down a fraction more and in a little bit more. I quite like the toms to be quite close together. However, it's a personal thing, and we'll look at that when we look at position a little bit later in the DVD. Okay, but that's not bad, that's looking okay. So we'll leave that as it is, and that gives us our sort of basic sort of part of the kit there, and what we need to do now is to build the snare and the floor tom around that and get some cymbals on.